Tonight, policing under the spotlight.
It should have just been me and my brother enjoying the night. Instead, I get attacked by a van or police officer.
And how can officers win back our trust?
This is just the very start of the digital revolution in policing, and I think it's for the better of policing.
Good evening and welcome to the Tonight programme. 2013 was an annus horribilis for the police, with a series of wrongdoings, mistakes and cover-ups coming to light. But to what extent has public confidence been dented by these damaging allegations and revelations? Tonight, Fiona Foster speaks to people who've been failed by the police and looks at what some forces are doing to put things right, as she asks, can we trust the police?
The British Police Service has always been the envy of the world, praised for its restraint, even-handedness and bravery. Yet, as it struggles to adapt to the changing demands of modern policing, it's finding itself under scrutiny and, in some quarters, under attack like never before. A growing list of controversies over the last 12 months has caused us, the public, to question the judgment and even the honesty of the police.
Since Jimmy Savile's death, the head of the Met Police has suggested more could have been done to prosecute him whilst he was alive.
The so-called plebgate row that cost a cabinet minister his job escalated today.
Nearly a quarter of a century after 96 Liverpool fans died in the Hillsborough disaster, more evidence of a police cover-up has come to light.
The mother of murdered teenager Stephen Lawrence met the Home Secretary today to discuss claims that undercover police officers hunted for information to smear her family.
Terrible crimes were committed on the streets of Rochdale, crimes against children which everyone missed and no one prevented.
In 2013, the public perception of the police has been significantly undermined by various cases that have been reported. I think the public are now willing to accept that what an officer says is not necessarily 100% accurate.
We have to recognise that as a policing service, we're not perfect. We will get things wrong and sometimes we will make mistakes, as humans do. But the public need to trust and understand that from our end. And we also then got to be honest and frank to say, well, we've not done things right, we need to be transparent.
To find out just how much public confidence in the police has been dented, Tonight took to the streets. And where better to go than Bury, birthplace of Sir Robert Peel, founder of the first modern police service, and Tamworth, Peel's constituency until his death in 1850.
Has your trust in the police been affected by recent stories such as Plebgate, Savile and Mark Duggan? Yeah, that Plebgate thing was a bit bad, wasn't it?
Well, it knocks your confidence in them a little bit, because especially with the Savile affair, you wonder why something wasn't done about that.
It's very easy to think that someone's made the wrong decision, particularly with Mark Duggan. Could you have reacted any better in a minute or 2 minutes?
In a specially commissioned Tonight survey of 2,000 people, 30% said they trust the police less since controversies like Plebgate, Savile and Mark Duggan. And 20% don't believe the police are on their side. Ian Gould is a solicitor who represents people bringing claims against the police. His clients are based all over the country, but they have one thing in common.
The people I represent are very distressed, extremely angry by reason of what's happened to them, and they invariably are looking for an explanation, an apology as to what's happened.
Ian Gould believes police forces have failed to apologise and take action when faced with complaints, which leaves his clients feeling they have little choice but to take action through the courts.
Unfortunately, I believe that there is a defensive culture within the police. It starts with a complaint. There tends to be a policy of protecting an officer when there's an allegation of wrongdoing. And invariably, it can take several months, if not years, before ultimately there's any acknowledgement of wrongdoing, and that's usually following civil proceedings.
Use of excessive force is just one of the reasons police officers can find themselves in the spotlight. 26-year-old Peter Garrigan is one of Ian Gould's clients. Peter took the police to court after he was assaulted by an officer at a train station in Liverpool. Officers then fabricated evidence against him to make Peter appear the guilty party.
We was on our way to the Liverpool One cinema, the Odeon. It was going to be a treat for me brother, as he has learning difficulties, and I thought it'd be a nice treat for me and my brother to go out together.
And when you arrived at Lime Street and you met with the ticket inspector, what did he say?
He said there was a problem with Daniel, my younger brother. His ticket was the wrong type of ticket. I tried to explain that my mother bought the tickets and then I was going to accept the fine, but I was telling him that I was staying here to explain things to Daniel, because Daniel doesn't understand everything.
So he's quite vulnerable, your brother?
He's very, very vulnerable.
As Peter wouldn't leave his brother's side, the police were called, and that's when things quickly escalated, as this CCTV footage shows.
You can see from your body language here, you are there with your arms folded.
Yes, I'm calm-mannered, and I just wanted to explain the situation as quickly as possible.
So you're talking, clearly, and then suddenly the officer steps towards you.
He grabs me without any warning that he's going to grab me, pulls me into the corner, and then he attacks me.
And of course your brother's there, helpless.
I'm worried for his safety. I don't know what he's going to do, whether he's going to get home.
An injured Peter was unlawfully arrested and taken to a local police station before being issued with a fixed penalty notice, alleging he'd used abusive and threatening behaviour.
It was my first time for being arrested, and he said to me, if you pay the £80 fine, it goes away, it doesn't go on your record, and you won't hear any more of it. Well, I thought, I don't see why I should accept that I'm guilty when I knew I'd done nothing wrong. But if I took them to court, I could have been found guilty, and I would have had a criminal record, and I wouldn't have been able to work in my job. But I took the risk.
Last November, Peter was awarded £13,000 in compensation.
The court found that officers had deliberately made up false evidence against you and said that they'd done that in order to cause him to be punished for something they knew he'd not done or to escape punishment for their own misconduct. What do you make of what was said there?
They made lies up against me to make me look guilty, to explain their situation, why they acted the way they acted.
Presumably it was the kind of last thing you would have expected from a simple night out with your brother to the cinema. Yeah,
well, it should have just been me and my brother enjoying the night and then coming home at the end of it. Instead, I get attacked by a violent police officer.
A wonderful son, brother and uncle has been lost to this war.
Still desperately looking for some kind of redress is the family of Bijan Ebrahimi, a man beaten to death outside his home by a neighbour last July, his body then set on fire.
At its most fierce, the white ball of flames was as high as the house beside it.
Bijan's family believe police missed a number of opportunities to help their brother.
Now, he came here as a refugee. What were his hopes and dreams when he arrived in the UK?
He was hoping to have a better life in here and make a better person of himself by going to university and studying and living his life in a better way.
Bijan had settled in Bristol from Iran more than a decade ago. But he was singled out as being different by some residents, and his family say he suffered regular abuse.
They used to come and break his flowers to make him angry. They used to kick his cat. They used to call him Paki, go home, foreigner, cockroach, and you don't belong here, you've got to go back home.
2 days before his death, Bijan filmed his neighbour, Lee James, encouraging children to vandalise the flower pots outside his home. The police were called, but 3 officers arrested Bijan, not James. Bijan was released back to his home, And a couple of days later, he recorded a video of James verbally abusing him.
You get all Bill all you want. Get all Bill and I'll say to him you're taking pictures of me.
The day after this video was taken, Bijan was dead.
How did you find out that Bijan had been murdered?
We found out in the airport because we were on holiday with my sister and my family, and when we came back they told us in the airport that he was murdered. Even now we can't imagine that it's real. You hear these things in the stories, you see them in the film, but it is not real life. You never expect anything like that happen.
24-year-old Lee James was sentenced to life for Bijan's murder. The attack happened just a few hundred yards from the local police station.
So from what you know, when Bijan rang the police, what kind of response did he get?
He made a complaint and he was the one who was arrested for breaching of the peace. And he was released the day after with no further action. And I mean it, with no further action from the police.
Do you feel your brother was let down by the police?
Definitely. He was failed by the police to protect him.
An investigation by the Independent Police Complaints Commission into Bijan Ebrahimi's death is ongoing. Overall, more than 30,000 complaints about the police were recorded in 2011-2012. In Avon and Somerset, the area in which Bijan Ebrahimi lived, there were 905 complaints. Sue Mount-Stevens is the area's Police and Crime Commissioner.
Bijan Ebrahimi was clearly a very vulnerable person. Why is it that sometimes it seems that the most vulnerable amongst us don't get the help they deserve from the police?
We're all human, and I think if people continually persist in making complaints, maybe, and this is wrong, but maybe we just all turn off a bit and say, oh well, you know, it's them again. And I don't want to talk about Mr. Ebrahimi specifically, but it's that constant reminder to officers, to PCSOs, to the police staff, that every time that you come face to face with the public, you've got to get it right. And that integrity of the police is absolutely key, and that's what we're really building on at the moment.
Afternoon, everyone.
Hi. One of the ways in which Sue Mount-Stevens is hoping to get it right is by setting up a panel of local residents to investigate how complaints against officers are handled by the force.
One thing I see from a few of these complaints is actually the initial contact between the police and the member of the public. If that's right, then a complaint doesn't happen. I think, or a complaint can be avoided.
Sometimes our officers are rude, and we need to be much more robust around challenging that. We need to be less defensive when members of the public make complaints about incivility, that it's happened, and apologise early.
Why did you set up the panel?
It was very clear to me that local people don't like police marking their own homework. And so what I wanted to do is bring in a group of people who would then be able to look very seriously at the complaints so that we could get that public feedback. And we want to improve the service, and the only way we can do that is by looking at how we've done things wrong in the past.
Why do you think there has been in the past sometimes this reluctance, it seems, amongst police officers to just apologise, to just say sorry?
It's an amazing legalistic process, and I think that quite more often than not, it puts the police on the defensive. And you can't sort out complaints like that.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Sue Mount-Stevens is one of 41 police and crime commissioners across the country. She believes these recently created roles could be instrumental in helping to restore public confidence in the police.
Let's try and do things a bit differently. And there's other police and crime commissioners doing different variations of what I want to do. And we will see whether, you know, the Home Secretary decides to take this opportunity and say, OK, let's give PCCs a chance to see if we can do stuff differently.
But it would seem there's still a long way to go. In our specially commissioned survey, less than half of respondents think the police are honest. 39% think there's a problem of corruption within the service. And out of those who'd had personal interaction with the police in the last 12 months, nearly a fifth said they didn't have confidence in them.
I was mugged 4 weeks ago. Took my handbag. I had the 2 children with me in broad daylight. Were you satisfied with the police's response? They didn't seem like they were interested. There's too many crimes going on where we live anyway, so it was just another one on the list. That's what it felt like.
I think there is quite a lot of police officers in the force that are honest and do the job how they should be. But I do get the impression, and from what I've seen in recent news, that they can be dishonest as well.
The police's honesty was called into question just last month, when it was alleged that police crime statistics are being routinely falsified in order to meet government targets. The National Statistics Authority is now so concerned about their reliability, it's stripped the figures of their quality assurance mark.
It isn't just about fudging the figures just to keep everybody happy. There are really serious consequences of this behaviour.
This is Dr. Roger Patrick, a retired Detective Chief Inspector. He recently gave evidence to a government committee saying a number of well-known techniques are used by officers to manipulate figures.
There's 4 general categories that they would use: cuffing, nodding, skewing and stitching. Cuffing's making crime disappear. It comes from the magician's art of making things disappear up the sleeve. People report it, but it isn't recorded by a number of techniques.
Nodding is the collusion between offenders and police officers to improve a force's detection rate.
So they would be produced from prison, go out with a police officer and nod at the locations where they had committed crimes. The problem with this is that he will admit offence or she will admit offences they haven't actually committed and return for inducements.
Skewing involves a police force putting all its resources into the area of activity that it's being measured on.
So if your target is to reduce burglary, you will put all your resources into reducing burglary, even though something else might be more important.
And stitching is where suspects are given cautions when there's not enough evidence to convict, or recording an informal warning against their name without the offender ever having been told.
What can the consequences of all this be?
Well, one, you've got offenders who could be committing serious offences who haven't been brought to justice, and 2, you could have innocent people out there who are going to be blighted as a result of these records which aren't accurate. And the other thing is you lose confidence in the records themselves.
Why has it been allowed to go on for so long?
Well, I suppose there's so many people who were quite happy to say that crime is coming down. It suits up a lot of political agendas.
But the people that suffer from that are the victims of crime.
Of course they are.
So what, if anything, does the government intend to do about this lack of transparency?
There are the police's own statistics, which, as you say, the Statistics Authority have taken the gold standard, if you like,
but that's a
away
scandal,
from.
Isn't it?
So that, well, they need to be better, absolutely. And we've set Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary into looking at the crime figures to make sure they're better recorded. People can be reassured by the fact that entirely independently there is the British Crime Survey, or the England and Wales Crime Survey, which has been going on since 1981, which is not constructed from police statistics, and that shows that crime is coming down. So I'm in no doubt at all that crime is falling, but also I'm in no doubt that the police crime statistics have to be made more reliable.
Almost a third of people in our survey say they're losing trust in the police. A third of people, that has to worry you.
Well, we're taking 2 big steps to address those, because I recognise the worries. The first is to give greater powers to the Independent Police Complaints Authority, so they will in the future investigate all serious or sensitive complaints, which will mean that what people have felt most worried about, which is the police investigating themselves, won't happen in the future. And the second is the greater use of body-worn cameras.
Body-worn video cameras are currently being trialled by around 20 police forces, including Hampshire. The force has 450 cameras, worn by officers and PCSOs while on duty, recording video to be used as evidence. As well as helping to gather crucial evidence at the scenes of crimes, such as burglary and instances of domestic violence, these cameras have also helped to reduce the number of complaints made by the public about officers.
The police rightly have a high level of trust, both from the community that we serve and indeed the courts, but we can never ever take that for granted. And so where on occasions that trust is brought into question, what better way than have an independent witness by way of the body-worn video that can categorically show what happened in a situation or interaction.
And so far it seems to be working for both officers and the public.
Portsmouth University, who we're working with to evaluate the use of these cameras, did a survey, and over 90% of the people supported our use and welcomed the benefits that it will bring. More so now, officers are single crewed, so if they turn up to an incident and it's just one word against the other, the cameras now is their independent witness.
This is just the very start of the digital revolution in policing, and I think it's for the better of policing, but we must never lose account of the fact that policing is about people talking to each other.
This high-tech approach to modern policing is a far cry from the traditional image of a community bobby on the beat. But it's clear there's a need for both in 2014. Inspector Umar Khan has nearly 20 years of experience with Greater Manchester Police. He believes being an integral part of the community is the best way to restore public confidence.
We have to make sure that our communities trust us to do the right things. So if it means going out, executing warrants on a street, then our communities need to understand that we're doing the right things for the right reasons.
Hello there, you okay?
And that means heading out to wherever the people are.
You keeping well?
I see officers in my teams, community support officers, police officers, day in, day out, doing fantastic engagement, work with our communities, working in schools, working with elderly people. So many countless examples I can give.
Community engagement isn't just about pounding the streets, though. Inspector Khan also gives up his evenings and weekends to reach out to the people of Rochdale using social media. Something that benefits the force too.
If you look at everybody nowadays, everybody's got a smartphone, iPhone, one of these, gadgets. Nearly everybody's either on Twitter or Facebook. So I said to our team last year, this is a fantastic tool, let's utilise it. The public, our eyes and ears. There's a lot more of the public than the police. So if we can work with our public, gain their support and help and assistance, then they can become massive supporters and contributors to our policing.
And there is still a lot of support for frontline officers like Inspector Khan. The majority of the public believes that officers are honest, hard-working, and would be prepared to put their own safety on the line to protect us. In our survey, 39% of people think their local police force does a good job, and 13% said it was excellent.
I think that a lot of these high-profile stories can paint the police in a bad light, but I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I just think that they have a very difficult job to do.
Over the weekends on Friday and Saturday night, they're always showing the faces around all the local bars, so they're easily seen in case there's any problems.
I've not really had any problems with the police, so overall, in my opinion, I think they do a really, really good job.
After the annus horribilis of 2013, there's no denying the police service is at a crossroads. With increasing demands being placed upon officers, it's important changes are made to ensure the service is fit for the 21st century.
It's got a number of challenges, but it's got a lot of talent and a lot of good people in it. It will recover, it will bounce back, and it will restore public confidence. It needs good leadership, good governance, good regulation.
If you'd like more information on tonight's programme, please visit our website at itv.com/tonight. In the meantime, though, good evening and thanks for watching.